understanding of what our learning community means when they talk about complexity of thought. Current guiding documents mention depth of knowledge 3 and 4 when creating competencies. Webb's wheel is very familiar to us. If you ask a student to apply concepts and synthesize, you're requiring depth of knowledge 4 type thinking. But those words aren't enough to convey what we're talking about when we talk about complexity of thought. What we see here are all of the leading paradigms that are trying to convey complexity of thought aligned side by side. SAU 67 building administrators took on the task of trying to distill these leading paradigms into a district paradigm, incorporating our local needs and reflecting the work that has already been done. The purpose of an SAU-wide document is articulating a common vision for our community on what we mean when we talk about complexity of thought. Adam Osborne, principal of our Bow Memorial School, has nicknamed the rubric we've created the mother of all rubrics. What you see in the rubric are different categories. Cumulatively, they help to convey the entire concept. We'll work our way through the rubric using the part-to-whole process. That is, looking at each part to build an understanding of the whole. One of the paradigms that was researched provided visuals, and the team thought that visuals should be included in our rubric. In the highlighted column, you see a visual and a number. The visuals represent a learning progression. First, we learn individual parts. Then we start to play with connections in Level 2. In Level 3, we're able to construct and articulate, with reason, the connections, and in Level 4, the student goes beyond what is being asked, making unique connections and insights supported by reason. The next section, Cognitive Domain and Descriptors. We realized that the task of coming to understand complexity of thought could get lost in the titles that might be used as some of the descriptors. Some research said that to avoid this, we should use unique terms, so as not to confuse words in common language with multiple interpretations of these words. But then you have to define or describe those unique words, and thus you end up using common language. Here you'll see both. They've been presented as themes, or terms to be used together. We understood that different grades might require different terms. Theme 1 uses some unique words: extended abstract, relational, multistructural, and unistructural. If you look at Theme 3, they use common words: exemplary, competent, developing, and beginning. Note that all three of these three themes use competent to describe Level 3. This is the target learning goal for competencies. Verbs. We couldn't get away from examples of verbs to be included in competency statements. The reality is, though, that these terms are debatable, and what ends up being more important is how the verb is interpreted to convey the complexity of thought. One model talked about complex thought as being focused on the quality of a demonstration of learning. If the assessment of learning was based on a quantitative measure, then the learning had not yet met the threshold of complex thought. The last column tries to put words to what the learning looks like. Look at the description for the Level 1 connection. Significance of the connections is not demonstrated. I want you to think about this in another way than assessing a student's final learning product. Instead, I'd like you to take a look at this column as if you were looking at it from the standpoint of the beginning of a lesson. At the beginning of a lesson, students are trying to sort out the pieces and learn the parts. At this point, all students are at a Level 1. We focus on learning the parts. This is quantitative. As time progresses, our learning activities help students to start to see patterns and make connections. Now the student has moved on to learning at a level 2 understanding. Once the student makes connections, provides accurate reasoning for those connections, and has demonstrated that they can construct knowledge, ideas, and informed opinions, then the student has demonstrated learning that is complex, and this is a level 3, and it's qualitative. The creation of this mother of all rubrics helps us as a district move forward with a better understanding of complexity of thought and a community-wide understanding. Will we have questions? Sure. But this document helps as a starting point. Before we end this presentation, I think it's important to see how this rubric might be used in crafting rubrics to be used in individual classrooms, for common assessments, and for performance assessments. The next 8 slides provide examples of rubrics that apply the concepts of our mother of all rubrics to different grades and content areas. You'll note the term solo used in some of these slides. Solo was one of the paradigms that was used in our research. The rubrics are presented as written. While SAU 67 is using a 4-level scale, you'll see that some of the rubrics include a level before level 1. You'll see that some of the rubrics use I can as a format, and some do not. There's no voiceover for the next 8 slides. At this point, you will need to advance slides on your own.